Hi, hello, and welcome everyone. I am super excited because we have Laddalove Hawkins today from Mile Lane Consultants. We're going to have a great discussion on how background screening improves the quality of hire and how companies can benefit with background screening. Now, before I get too ahead of myself, I want to go ahead and introduce today's panel. So my name is Brianna Rosencrans, and I am the host for today's discussion, and I'm also the Partner Marketing Manager here at Verified First. Now, Dakota, if you'd like to introduce yourself, I would love for you to do that.
Yeah, definitely. My name is Dakota Bruno. I'm an affiliate manager here at Verified First. I just help with the partnership between Verified First and Mile Lane Consultants. Absolutely love the partnership here, and I think we'll have a good discussion today.
Awesome. And Lotta, how about yourself?
Just Lotta with Mile Lane Consultants, trucking business consultant, and just looking forward to this conversation, much needed conversation.
So are we. We're so excited to have you on the line today, Lotta. Now, I want to go ahead and provide a little bit of context about who Verified First is, what we are, what we do, and our mission. So, Verified First is a fast-growing tech company on a mission to deliver cutting-edge HR technology that transforms the way organizations protect their people. And we do so in a variety of ways, whether that's background screening, drug testing, education, employment verifications, I-9, and E-Verify. With that, in terms of how we partner with Mile Lane Consultants, really the goal here is to provide educational information on background screening and how it relates to compliance here. So on that note, I'd also love to take the opportunity to have Lotta discuss a little bit more about what Mile Lane Consultants does.
Sure, thank you, Brianna. So as the screen says, we're here to be a resource hub. In order, there's a lot of confusion out there, especially for people without the trucking or transportation logistics background getting into trucking and transportation. So we work exclusively with those with less than 3 years industry experience and point them in the right direction, if you would, to making sure they're in compliance, that they have all the information they need to stay profitable and be able to scale their business.
Awesome. Yeah, much needed service. And I'm excited to hear your thoughts and feedback throughout today's discussion, as it's going to be truly valuable. Now, with that, I want to jump into why background screening matters. We have this quick little video here. And afterwards, I would love to get your thoughts, Lotta and Dakota, on what your thoughts are on this video.
Hi, I'm Sarah. And this is Hank. Hank is applying to be a commercial driver at Acme. He appears to be a great candidate and has disclosed past infractions. However, he didn't mention he's been involved in multiple motor vehicle accidents and has had a variety of driving tickets. Additionally, he's been fired from 3 of his previous employers. With his history, hiring him might lead to a negligent hiring lawsuit and put your organization at risk. That's why vetting candidates like Hank through a PBSA accredited background check process is crucial to Acme. Not only can you reduce the risk of a bad hire, you can improve the accuracy and quality of hire. Revealing a candidate's history can help protect Acme and its employees. Not to mention, a bad hire can impact the retention of great employees you don't want to lose. To request a demo, visit verifiedfirst.com.
All right, no need to request a demo. That's what we're here for today. But Lotta, I'd love to hear your first reactions to this.
Really, it just kind of honed in on the name of your company, to verify first. You need to make sure that you're verifying all this information, and it's really hard to verify information that people don't openly disclose. So having a way to be able to have this provided, so now you can bring that back to the table, because that is still part of the conversation. You still have to have that one-on-one with the driver, the potential candidate, of kind of why they didn't disclose this, or was it overlooked. But being able to get that information first and foremost protects your company.
Right, that is very true, Lotta. And Dakota, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the big thing with background screening and understanding, in this case, drivers and their history, is just the retention of other drivers and other employees and even clients, right? So when you have something bad happen with the driver, that can impact your client and your clients as well, and how you retain them and the service you provide them. So I think it's important to, like Lotta said, verify your drivers, verify your contractors or your employees, so that it helps the overall mission of the company to provide that great service.
Absolutely. Thanks for providing that insight there, Dakota. And we're going to go ahead and sometimes this video has a mind of its own. Transition to the next slide here, which is actually our first poll question. And as we saw from the video, and also with Lada's great explanation there, is that screening your candidates reveals information that can help you make a hiring decision and find the talent you need for your organization. And like Lada said, sometimes people don't always come forward with that information here. So I'd be curious to see your thoughts on this. How many US drivers are arrested for driving under the influence of alcohol or narcotics annually? So we have some options here. Do you think it's less than 50,000, 100,000, 200,000, or more than 700,000? And oftentimes we find that people are pretty surprised with the answer. So Lada, not having seen the results yet, what do you think this number is going to look like?
Sorry, I had myself on mute. Just pull, I'm a big, as most people know, that I'm really big into the question. So I just want to kind of re-emphasize what the question is asking for. It's asking for US drivers, and not only arrested for alcohol, but narcotics, and on an annual basis. So kind of think of those factors when you think of your number. So I mean, yeah, I just really wanted to re-emphasize truly what the question was asking, so that people can better make sure that they're taking all those factors into consideration in their answer.
Yeah, that is very key here. So let's go ahead, we'll close the poll and we'll look at that reality with those factors in mind here. So with that, the reality is that it's actually a million US drivers are arrested annually for driving under the influence of alcohol or narcotics annually, which quite honestly, the first time I saw that number definitely surprised me. So Dakota, I'd love if you could go ahead and talk a little bit more about this statistic.
Yeah, I was a Brianna when I first saw this. It blew me away. I was surprised that a million drivers are arrested annually. So that's not a million drivers partake in this activity, right? It's a million people are caught and arrested, and there's punishments assessed on them. And so really the reality would be that this number is much higher for people that actually do this. And to me, that's scary. And I want to know, if my drivers or employees are doing that. So it's important to have those screening practices, not only upon hire, but also while under employment, and that those practices are consistent throughout employment. So that you can, check up on your employees, your drivers, your contractors, everything that you have, so that you understand, what's going on in their lives. Not everybody discloses the infractions they might have. And especially within the DOT industry, it's important to keep up to date and compliant with those things, so that you can, insulate your company, your clients, and your other drivers from that risk and potential legal mishap.
Right, absolutely. And it's not just clients that you need to worry about, it's the community safety as a whole as well. So that's very relevant feedback here. Now, with that in mind, you talked a little bit about how this is a continuous process. So that's where rescreening really comes into play. However, it's important to note that, vetting candidates or checking up on employees is not just about background screening. There's other things that you can implement as well to ensure that you have a safe workplace, and that is drug testing in the workplace. So there's a few different reasons for drug testing in the workplace here. The first one that we have on screen is for pre-employment tests, and these are tests that are done that are contingent to getting a job. The second one here is for cause and reasonable suspicion tests. And then the last one is random drug screening programs, which is a service that Verified First does offer. So Dakota, if you can go ahead and talk a little bit more about what our random drug screening program looks like.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of feel free to support me here too. In the DOC space, there's certain requirements that you have to be in a random pool to receive drug screens over a certain period of time. What we found is a lot of times people owning companies or working with drivers don't have the time or necessarily the software to make sure that that pool is random. It occurs every enroll. And so what Verified First does is we have that pool established so that we ensure a portion of your drivers every time period get drawn and have received that drug test, so that you maintain compliance. You don't have to worry about that aspect, because that's a very stressful piece, trying to get all the routes done, get all the logistics taken care of, and then also trying to manage these random drug pools that happen every so often that happens that you forget about them anyways. And so we want to make sure that that piece is taken care of, so that you don't have to worry about it, and we can keep you compliant with that. Lada, did I miss anything in that realm? Or
No, I think a lot of people may have heard about the drug consortium and just, the confusion with that. So this falls right aligned that it has to be random. And random doesn't mean when you thought about it, it has to have a system to randomness. It can't be after every weekend. It can't be, because that's not random anymore. That's after a weekend. That's after the holidays. And so a true test of randomness is actually a process. It's not just, oh, out of the blue, because out of the blue doesn't mean random. So I just would rest with that. Also, I wanted to bring attention about the reasonable cause. You have to be careful in being a motor carrier that you follow those rules very carefully, because if you're constantly testing someone because you have suspicion of abuse, the next question is, if you kind of felt that they were abusing, although you didn't bust them, why didn't you fire them? Why didn't you find out more? So you have to be careful with the amount of testing you do as well, and just make sure you have all your documents in line to make sure that it's fair, it's just, and it supports the true reason, not just, a reason to fire, even though that's going to be part of your supporting documentation.
That is great feedback, Lotta. Fair and just is absolutely something that needs to be kept in mind when background screening or drug testing. So with that, I want to go ahead and jump into another stat here that we have. This was a statistic we were able to find in partnership with Aptitude Research, a third-party research provider, and they actually found that 39% of organizations are not screening every candidate for roles at their organization. So, with that, our goal here at Verified First is to help organizations create safe work environments. But, according to this, 39% of organizations are not screening. So, Dakota, what does this statistic reveal to you?
Yeah, I think it goes right in line with what Lotta just said, right? You want to be fair and just in your screening. And if you're not screening for every role or every candidate, you're creating a potential for discrepancy, right? So if you're only screening for, in this case, 60% of your roles, well, those other 40%, if you do happen to screen, then something could happen there where you might be, legally at fault there. And so we really want to, like you said, create that safe work environment so that there's fair, equitable screening across the board. Not only that, it makes more sense to screen at every role, right? Because that way, you're more confident in those decisions going forward because, hey, I did my due diligence. I know where this person's coming from. I know their background. There's no question marks left in your mind if you have that fair, equitable practice of screening at every role and every candidate.
Absolutely, Dakota. And that is a fantastic segue into this next slide that we have prepared here. And that is that there are certain laws that need to be considered when background screening and drug testing. I just want to preface this. I am not a lawyer. I cannot be legal counsel or anything. So if you are looking to revamp your screening strategy and policies, please use legal counsel. I'm just here explaining the laws that we typically see that are considered for background screening. So the first one here is the FCRA, which is the Fair Credit Reporting Act. And this law dictates various sorts of requirements in order to perform background checks that are fair, transparent, and accurate. And we'll talk a little bit more about the requirements for FCRA on the next slide. But the second one here, the EEOC, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, is what Dakota was referencing in terms of making sure you're not participating in discriminatory hiring practices. So this law states that employers are not permitted to conduct background checks based on those protected classes like sex, religion, race, disability, etc. So that's definitely something that's important to keep in mind. You do not want to get in trouble for picking and choosing who you're screening there based on those factors. Another thing, which is the Ban the Box Act, and this is a new movement that we've seen. I believe it came out in 2019, and the premise of this is basically to protect individuals who have a criminal history so that they can find work as well. So this is not something that is applicable in every state. There are various different requirements for each state as well. So I highly recommend to make sure you understand what the requirements are for your state. But basically this law kind of puts into place when you can conduct background screening, when you can ask about criminal history, what type of criminal history you can talk about, etc. And the last one here, this is really pertinent to the audience I'm speaking to today, which is the DPPA, the Driver's Privacy Protection Act, which is basically permitting employers to pull these drivers' records based on the job that they're going to be in. So, with that, Lotta, do you have any insight on any of these laws here?
As I was learning more about Ban the Box, I know you and I had a discussion briefly because I heard of it, didn't really delve into it, but I found out that Texas is pro Ban the Box, which means if you are in Texas like myself, you need to really pay attention to this because they are pro Ban the Box. It's a particular time to which you are able to do this screening, and so you need to be cautious of that. Secondly, I would just remind everyone with the DPPA, there's going to be more focus on that with the upcoming changes for the CDL requirements here in February by the FMCSA. I know all the alphabet soup, but you really need to know and research what that means. Are you in compliance, and just get the assistance if you are not, because it's going to be more of what people are looking for, especially if anything ever ends up going to trial. So.
Right, that is great feedback here. And Dakota, did you have anything else to add?
On this one, I don't really. I think Lotta covered a lot of the relevant information here. Just want to make sure we're here as a resource, but again, not legal counsel.
Yes, absolutely. And keep that in mind for the next slide as well here. So we're going to dive a little bit more into the Fair Credit Reporting Act regulations here. So basically, this means that when a candidate is ready to undergo a background check, there's a few things that the employer has to make sure that they're compliant with. So one of those is being that they have to provide notification of required assessments prior to conducting that background check. So, making sure that you notify someone that they have to undergo a background check or a drug test before they are able to, get the job. The other thing here is to get written consent that it's okay to perform a background check. You're not allowed to perform background checks without that written consent. So that's a huge piece here. And then also providing a copy of the summary consumer rights, and then the reporting agency's phone number, address, and their name. So those are some things to keep in mind here before the actual background check process. Now, once you get the background check back and you find some information that is revealing to you that makes it so this individual may not be the best fit for your organization, then that's where you participate in pre-adverse or adverse notification. So with that, pre-adverse action is basically when someone, something was revealed on their background check, the employer decides to go in another direction. So they have to provide a statement identifying that there was something revealed in their background check and they're planning to move forward in another direction. So with that, then, the candidate has the right to basically rebuttal the statement and come back and address anything that was incorrect, or maybe they've made improvements since then. So they have that time period to basically connect with the employer and respond. Now, after that, if the employer decides then that they want to go ahead and, pursue moving on to another candidate, then that's where the notification of adverse action comes into play, basically stating they're moving in another direction. Again, the candidate does have the opportunity to respond and rebuttal any claims that seem unfair. So this one here is super important, especially, pointing down to that statistic down on the bottom here. We've seen lawsuits with the FCRA rise 8.6% year over year since 2011, showing how important compliance with this is. That is part of, not properly conducting background checks. Those legal costs can be tremendous. So Dakota, do you have anything to add on this slide?
Yeah, obviously this slide has a lot of information here. It definitely can be scary, right? If you're trying to maintain compliance, you want to make sure that you're doing everything you can. And like it says on the bottom here, this is where having a partner in this makes it a lot easier. Verify First has systems in place to help all these steps take place, right? So we keep you compliant. We send that notification. We give them written consent rights. We provide a reporting agency. We give the option, and we'll show you here in a bit with the demo, we give you the option to take pre-adverse and adverse action from within the Verified First portal. So there's a lot of things here that if you want to stay compliant, right, it's super important to have somebody on your side that helps you do that, because there's so many things you could potentially forget. And if you do, it opens yourself to, legal ramifications. And so we're here to help with that. Lotta's here to help with that. The partnership between My Online Consultants and Verified First is here just to be a support there and help maintain compliance in your operation.
Absolutely. And just one thing to add too, there have been cases where individuals, candidates actually go around looking for organizations who are not being compliant with FCRA, and they try and attempt lawsuits there. And most of the times they are successful. So just something to keep in mind is something that, some candidates do. So it's important to understand these laws and make sure to consider them in your process. So with all of that in mind, I want to go ahead and jump into what it's like to build a compliance screening strategy. Again, not legal counsel, just best practices that we've seen here. So the first thing is to develop and refine those screening policies to make sure you're not participating in any discriminatory hiring practices and that you're staying fair and consistent there. The second thing, huge, is to provide disclosure and get consent. That is the one that candidates often try and get the employers on in terms of not being compliant. Then the third thing here, and this is contingent on your state, and it's also connected to the ban the box laws, and that's based on making a contingent job offer either before or after your organization decides to, pursue that candidate further. So make sure to check in with your state to see when that contingent job offer has to go out here. Then another recommendation here is to outsource to a third-party screening provider. As we mentioned, screening providers can help with that compliance factor, and then it also streamlines the hiring process as well. So with that, you've now received your background check, and that's when you need to just determine if you are going to move forward with the candidate or pursue pre-adverse action and provide any of that notification there. So with that in mind, we've talked a lot about background screening, a little bit about drug testing. So Dakota, I would love to see how it works and see this in action.
Yes, definitely. Let me pull up my screen and we'll go from there. All right, let me know when you're seeing my screen as we transfer over. So this is the Verify First ordering portal. So if you were to partner with Verify First through My Own Lane Consultants, this is where we would be ordering a screen from and how it would be set up. So when you log in here, first we'll have a call with Verified First. We'll get you set up, get you your login information, and then we'll walk you through this more in depth in a personal call. But for now, today's call, we're going to go over it briefly and kind of high level. So when you get here and you're ordering a screen, you'll just click the order button. That first screen is where you're going to see reporting. So if you need to go through and see what screens are ran, if you're waiting on some, or if they're ready for review, you can view them there. When you're ready to order a screen, it's pretty simple. You'll just put the name, email, so first name, last name, email, phone number, and then the state of employment. And really that's all the personal information you need, right? So we want to house a lot of that data so that you don't have to maintain compliance over personal protected information. That's a big piece of it, not maintaining their social, not maintaining the date of birth, right? We house all that, and we're PBSA accredited to handle that information so that you don't have to worry about, how do I share this? Where do I maintain this? Everything like that. Going away from that, when you're running a screen on an individual, you'll have different positions and packages you can create. So if you're hiring a lot of, in this instance, like DOT drivers, if there are different box trucks, or if you have any administrative staff you're hiring for, you can create those different positions. That way you create that repeatability and that fairness so that every screen is ran the same, every person is ran through the same screening process. And then secondly, there's packages you can create. So if there's different levels of screening you want to do for different positions, you have the flexibility to create all those. Again, quick note here, there's about 160, 170 different products. So there's a lot to take in. We, as Verified First, will help walk through what you might need in your industry. It'll be, again, on you to make sure you're running them, but we can provide all the products you need, especially in the DOT industry, to make sure you're screening your drivers and other employees equitably. So once you've selected the products you need to run and you ran a screen, you enter the information, your screen will become pending. It'll send a notification out to the individual. So I'll go ahead and enter my information here. We can go through it real quick. Then I'll put my email. Oops. Can never type on a demo. So there's a couple of things, right? There's a couple things I want to show here after you click the order button. So once it goes through, do click phone number 2. There we go. Sweet. You come down and you click send invite. So what this does is that right here, you can auto order or manually order the report. So you'll receive, you know, hey, this candidate has submitted their disclosure forms. They have submitted to letting you run the background screen. You can either auto order that, so as soon as they send those disclosure forms, the order goes through, or you can manually order them, which means you just review those forms when they come in. Now, lastly, and this is super key, I think, is those disclosure forms are sent through email and also text. And so we find that most people are on their phones quite a bit more than their laptops or their email. And so texting them the disclosure forms actually saves about a day, 8 hours, almost 9 hours off turnaround time. So it makes it that much faster, that much more easier to run those screens. Like I said, once you run the screen, the order will become pending, and you will then have the sidebar over here where you will wait to receive the completed order from the applicant. After you receive that, and it says waiting on applicant, you can see all the reporting here on the left side. When it is completed, it'll say ready for review, so that you can come in here and review those completed orders. This is where we talked about earlier. You can run pre-adverse or adverse action. So if you click on a dummy account, come in here, you can view the report as well as the view report, take pre-adverse or adverse action right here as well. So all of this is done for you. We mail out the adverse or pre-adverse action notifications. There's no minimum fees. There's no charges outside of just whatever screens you order. So if you come run 10 screens 1 month, you're, big hiring for all the drivers, but then the next month you don't really have a lot of drivers coming in and you don't run any screens, that's totally fine. Because we partner with Mile Lane Consultants, we're able to provide this to you without like a minimum fee or anything like that. So after you view the report, if you take pre-adverse adverse action or not, pretty much complete there. We house all the reports for you. So again, you don't have to maintain compliance there. But that is a quick overview of the ordering portal. It's a super simple process. All you have to do is have the name, email, phone number. We take care of the rest and you're able to go from there. Any comments, Lada or Bree?
Yeah, I just want to say, while we're still on the screen, you can see that, there's an order date and a complete date here. So that's actually something that we offer is turnaround time transparency. So you can see the estimated date for when your orders will be ready by, which is fantastic because, if there's court delays, a natural disaster, anything that would really delay a background check being completed or, anything that is ordered through our portal being completed, it will notify you. So that's not something that organizations typically have. However, we truly believe in transparency. So we want you to know where that background check is at or where whatever the service or product you're ordering is at so that you can make sure you can maintain that communication with your candidate. And in that time, hopefully, don't lose them to another competitor because you're being transparent and communicative with them and you know exactly when their background check is going to be done. Lada, did you?
Oh, I'm sorry. The only thing I would add is this is part of what we call the DQ file, your driver qualification file. And even if you're a one-person operation, an owner-operator, you have to do this on yourself. You have to do this on yourself because when you create a separate entity, such as your LLC, ABC Trucking, you are now legally a driver for ABC Trucking, even though if you are ABC Trucking. That's the separation in creating the LLC. So make sure if you're owner operators and that you're doing this as well, because when you come to your audit, that's, everybody has their first year. This is what they're looking for. They're looking for the timeliness of it as well as just having it in your file. And this is where a lot of people miss out. This is a big area of compliance that people just kind of miss the ball on. So this is a resource that's going to allow you to take control, be organized, and make sure that it's done.
Right. Thank you for providing that insight there. All right, Dakota, if you want to go ahead, switch me back here, and we'll go ahead and jump into some more benefits of screening. All right, so, we've talked all about background screening, you've seen the demo, so I want to go ahead and provide a little bit more context about additional benefits to your organization and how screening actually impacts it. So through that research study we did with Aptitude Research, we actually found some really amazing, qualities of how background screening improves the organization. So one thing here is that it helps to improve the retention of quality hires. we've talked a lot about how, it matters in terms of how that candidate is coming in, interacting with the workforce in your organization. And unfortunately, bad hires can permeate the organization and potentially cause issues with other employers or with the community, other clients, etc. So vetting candidates through background checks, drug tests helps to really provide a safe and secure environment that other employees want to stay in. The other thing here is that it helps to improve that candidate experience and engagement through that automated and collaborated screening process. So, I had a conversation with Dakota the other day on how when I first came to Verified First, this was my first time ever conducting a background check over my phone. Prior to this, I'd done everything by paper. I'm sure many of you have actually, done most of it by paper. And, as I was filling this out, I remember thinking, wow, my goodness, this is the future right here. This is so easy. All of the disclosure and consent forms came page by page. It was so easy. And it was just such an easy process to complete that check here. Another thing is it helps to improve the accuracy of hires, making sure that they are right fit for the position. For example, if you are someone who is working at a school, you'd want to make sure that they don't have anything on their record that, connects to potentially anything to the National Sex Offender Registry here. So it's important to make sure that your candidates fit the description of the job. So another example as well, for drivers, you don't want to, cross-reference any driver's infractions, any fires from previous driving companies, etc. So all very important information to keep in mind to figure out the accuracy of your hire here. Another thing is it improves data consistency and accuracy. Like Dakota said, that information is, you only fill out so much and then everything else is in the candidate's hands. So that's on them to provide that information there. And then additionally, our solution helps to streamline that hiring process. It reduces data entry, increases compliance, and then also allows time for those value-added initiatives as well. Our whole goal here is to provide time back so that you can focus on other things in the organization by automating this process, especially right now because, we've heard that there has been high turnover in the trucking industry, not just trucking, but everywhere right now. And, because of that, a lot of organizations are unfortunately participating in body filling. They need warm bodies to fill the position. And because of that, sometimes organizations forego background screening as a result. Which now is not the time to do that because especially as you're, getting candidates through the door and trying to make sure that your jobs are filled, this is the most important time where you want to make sure that you are vetting the right candidates and that they are the right person to be in the job here. So with all that, I want to go ahead and jump into our second poll question of the day. We've talked all about background screening, you've seen the technology. So now I want to go ahead and ask you, what technology do you plan to adopt or replace within the next 6 months here? So, we've seen an increase in background screening because of what I said. Now is the time where organizations really want to make sure that they are participating in practices that will help to decrease the risk here. So, Lotta, do you have any insight at all on what you think individuals might answer for this question?
I know the consistency of onboarding is definitely a big piece because onboarding speaks to, now that you're hired, what are the expectations? So that's something, if you don't have a system in place, because this may be your first hire, this is definitely something you need to have in the front end versus in the back end. You don't onboard once someone's already on board. Also with driver ATS is applicant tracking system. So having something more than just a paper application and even a digital application that doesn't have true tracking. Although you can, ask them to send their information in a form, where tracking comes in is where are they in the form? There's different pieces of the form that sometimes it is just going to take more time to fill out. When you're having to do a background accountability of the past 3, 5 to 7 years, depending on your company standards, it's going to take some time for maybe an individual who's had several jobs to get the dates right, get the information together. So they may be stuck, if you would, at that point. And so even though it was really easy for them to put in their initial name, email, even, a social security number, the information they know off the top of their head, it may take a few more minutes in order to go through the entire application as it pertains to a driver ATS. So those are the main things to kind of think about when you're thinking about the replacement or adding this to your process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, with this, I've mentioned them a couple of times. This is a study that we did with Aptitude Research. It's a year-long study we're currently conducting right now to try and help us understand, how people are, getting involved with those, talent acquisition technology systems. So appreciate everyone for your response here, and we will make sure to send a report when that is all ready. Now, I want to go ahead and transition here and talk a little bit about some considerations for the Department of Transportation. So, Dakota, if you could provide some insight, and Lotta, I'd love to hear insight from you as well here on these.
Yeah, definitely. So these are kind of like the top DOT considerations needed when running employment checks or really operating in the DOT space. And so really just running down the list, the DOT employment verifications, that's your FMCSA check, your previous employers, the driving as well, your PSP crash and inspection history. That's just obviously a crash inspection history, 5-3 year, just making sure they have a clean record or what their record is, just being knowledgeable of that record in particular. Commercial driver's license, obviously you're staying up to date with that, with the AAMVA, just ensuring it's up to date, they're able to operate the equipment that you're hiring them for. Motor vehicle reports, same thing, they have a clean driving record, or at least you're aware of what that driving record is upon hire. And then you have your different drug screenings, your DOT 7 panels, your breath alcohol testing. We talked about the DOT random pools, so just ensure that they're at random and that they're held at every interval as well. And then number 8, your DOT physicals, so ensuring that they're physically able to operate the vehicles or the machinery that you're hiring them for. Lotta, any highlights here, or any particular points of pain or interest in the industry?
Just to know that these are DOT specific. An application is not an application. Kind of one of the key features that make a DOT application is it's going to ask that driving verification information. Same with the CDLIS, I always forget that L, CDLIS versus the MVR, number 3 versus number 4. Number 3 is more comprehensive. It's telling about the details that your MVR is just going to show points awarded. And then same with the physicals. Even if they're not a CDL driver, it's still beneficial because there's still a thing called a driver fitness that you have to be in compliance with. So even though they don't have to have their med cert like a CDL holder will, you still need to have some type of physical screening that's going to go over their ability to be behind the wheel of any vehicle. So no, that's it.
Great insight, love it. Well, now that we have those in consideration here, I want to go ahead and switch gears and talk about something that is actually required. Background screening isn't necessarily required here. However, Form I-9 is a requirement. And I'm sure that everyone on the call today has filled out a Form I-9, as it is a legal requirement to assess the eligibility of someone who can work in the United States. So I have the short video. We're going to go ahead and take a watch.
Hi, I'm Sarah, and this is Christopher, the Verified First Product Guide. He's here to discuss Form I-9, a required document used to verify the identity and employment authorization of citizens and non-citizens hired for employment in the United States.
Did you know that just one Form I-9 error can receive up to a maximum fine of $2,332? Surprisingly, 76% of paper I-9s have at least one error, and the average number of errors per form is 4.1.
Is there a reason this one document has so many errors?
Well, Sarah, the Form I-9 is actually the most fined government form because of its high error rates. While it's only 2 pages, it comes with a 70-page instruction manual. So, as you can see, there's a lot to keep in mind when filling out the form. However, fully automating new hire I-9s through the Verified First integration with Linktr reduces errors and compliance track record of over 20 years. With this proven solution, users also benefit from an efficient, streamlined hiring process, built-in compliance tools, expert audit support, fully encrypted cloud-based solution that ensures data protection, and one of the finest client care teams.
Sounds easy enough. To schedule a demo,
All right, so as you can see there, that Form I-9 is a pesky little one, you know, a 70-page manual for a 2-page paper, a 2-page form. That is crazy how many errors there are on that. So just something to keep in mind, you know, this is a required form that every employer has to make sure that they provide to candidates here. So just wanted to show you that integration we have with Major Tech, because this can be a game changer and a lifesaver here for your organization, because you know, lawsuits like this, they can really hinder and hurt your organization. So I want to go ahead now and talk a little bit more, which this video might play again, can't figure it out. I'll get it one day. I want to talk a little bit more about the benefits of verified first solution. So background screening, drug screening, I-9, E-Verify here. So on the screen here, you know, there's a little statement here about an integration. So we do have an integration where you can connect our platform with an ATS, HRIS, payroll solution, onboarding, whatever it may be. So it connects in 15 seconds or less. It's a super simple process. So if you're interested in learning about that and you do have another HR software solution that you have to support you in your organization, then absolutely we'll set up another call to discuss what that integration looks like. Now, Dakota, if you can go ahead and talk about the ease of use here.
Yeah, definitely. So the platform, both integration and not integration, the one we showed a demo of today, easy login access, right? So once you log in the first time, we can help remember that login. Obviously, everybody I'm sure either has LastPass or has a notepad somewhere with all of the logins, since we all have about 25,000 of them and need help remembering them all the chance to get. Additionally, in the ordering portal, we provide candidate status updates so you can easily see, you know, where your candidates are at in the process. As I said in the demo, there's customizable packages, so you can create those however your client's best needs are. And then as well with the SMS texting capabilities, it shaves a lot of turnaround time off and just provides a lot easier, seamless transition for your drivers or employees so they can finish those drug tests or background screens easier.
Awesome. Well, thanks for providing that insight, Dakota. You know, to talk a little bit more about the texting feature here, this is what can help your organization get a candidate over the competitor, because that time to fill is so important now. So you don't want to lose them in the meantime. So having something to help streamline that process is really key here. Now, in terms of our compliance, Dakota showed you a little bit about what kind of compliance we have in the portal. You know, we have built-in compliance tools. We can offer pre-adverse and adverse notification here. But another thing that we offer is that we have user permission access settings. So in your organization, if you have various people who are, you know, in charge of background screening, you can choose what types of permission settings they have. So one person can have full access so they can see everything, whereas someone might have limited access or can only view certain candidates. So that's something as well. You have the control to figure out who has what access in your account. Another thing is that we are PBSA accredited, as Dakota mentioned, so that also helps with the compliance here. As I mentioned, in terms of our support, you know, we have one of the best client support teams, I think. You know, we have 98% satisfaction rate. We answer calls in less than 30 seconds here. And then we also have a client resource center where we answer any of the questions you might have. Someone's always available to speak to you here. And then there's also, you know, if you were to get that integration or with our services in general, you know, there's no long-term contracts or those monthly or annual minimum screen requirements with that here. Now, with that, you know, I want to go ahead and close us out here by providing some contact information if you're looking to learn a little bit more about My Own Lane Consultants or Verified First. So that contact information is up here. Looks like we're running up on the time here, but Lotta, Dakota, any last thoughts before we leave this discussion today?
I just want to remind people, when, you know, the first thing I always hear about background checks is, but what if I'm felony friendly? That's okay. That would be an internal process, but you would need to know the process still, as the screening still is the same. So what you accept is up to you, but this is really more so about safety. You know, you want to make sure that you are aware and bring it all into the safety, and then you wouldn't like excuse too much of the safety issues, but just think of it more of safety. So if you're a felony friendly organization, don't think this is not for you, because you still have a process, you still have compliance check marks at the very least that you'll have to comply with. And so I just want to remind everyone with that, because I think that's one of the first things that people think naturally when they say, oh, background screening, well, I like backgrounds, or I'm open. You still have a process in which you have legal compliance to adhere to. So that's my closing remark.
That's funny that you mentioned that, because Verify First actually in its initial stages was a second chance employer. And so the background screening company actually employed felons as just different operations within the company. So definitely, I mean, background checks just make you aware of the situation so that you're able to accept that, whatever your internal process is. Love that comment. Other than that, Brianna, this comment here is just let us know if you have any questions. Obviously, the email's there. I'm happy to help assist in any way I can, even if it's just a question about screening, and we can connect you with a screening specialist to walk through those products, etc. And definitely connect with Lada if you're not already. She is immensely helpful. Absolutely love talking to her, and she provides a lot of great insight. So thank you.
Awesome, great closing thoughts. And with that, I'm going to close out today's discussion. We do have a post-webinar survey. It's very brief, but if you're interested in background screening, you can let us know on that form. And we also are constantly looking to improve. So if you have any feedback that you can provide us, it is always recommended here and always helpful. So with that, I'm going to close this out. It was amazing to have you on the call today, Lada. I look forward to speaking with you more in the future.
Same here, and thank you. Thank you.